This is TWiT.
I maybe got a little over-optimistic when I read this, and I read it on Wednesday. Mark Zuckerberg's more than 3,000-word post, a privacy-focused vision for social networking. I got so excited by this. Whoops.
You had hope, Leo.
I actually...
First mistake of reading a Mark Zuckerberg 3,000
I know, I
word
fell
Facebook
for it.
post.
I had deactivated my Facebook account back in August. I reactivated it, and I posted for the first time in
Leo.
6 months saying,
No.
well, wait a minute. Now let me justify this, saying, look, I don't know if Mark's sincere, but if he is, this is the social network I want, and I'm gonna stay on Facebook to find out. Now, the minute he proves to be insincere about this, I will be gone again because well, anybody who uses Facebook, and incidentally, that number is dwindling. We've just saw a statistic that said the number of posts on Facebook is down 25%. Number of people using Facebook under the age of 25 has dwindled by millions. Millions of people are leaving the platform. Facebook is under investigation by Congress, by Parliament in the UK. We keep hearing every week more horrific security stories. Last week, in fact, coincident with this announcement, it came out that Facebook was using the number, your phone number that they asked for two-factor authentication as a way of identifying you, and that there was searchable and there was no way to turn that off.
And they're making it available to advertisers.
And they sell ads against it, even though they were saying, oh, it's just two-factor. And it time and time again. I mean, there's been no evidence that Facebook or Mark Zuckerberg cares the least for our privacy or security. It seems to be, or our laws, the only thing Facebook cares about is making more money. Then Mark writes this post. And I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. So you guys, let me just say what Mark said. Then you guys can talk me off. Actually, I was off the ledge. Talk me back onto the ledge.
We're going to get you back up on that ledge, Leo.
Talk me back onto the ledge. My focus, Mark, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to synopsize. My focus for the last couple of years has been understanding and addressing the biggest challenges facing Facebook. In fact, he said that was going to be his challenge for this year.
He used to only eat food that he killed. Now
he's
this.
saying, he says, I'm going to outline our vision and principles around building a privacy-focused message. Now, this is important. Messaging and social networking platform. Essentially, I saw this as a pivot. Now, you know, I've read a lot since I read this, but at the and I think it's still, if you read it at face value, if you give Mark credit for being sincere, it still is a pivot. He's saying public social networks will continue to be very important in people's lives. People find these valuable every day. There are a lot of services to build on them. But now, with all the ways people also want to interact privately, there's an opportunity to build a simpler platform that's focused on privacy first. And that's why I say it's a pivot. Facebook right now is public. And your stuff leaks out of it even if you say it's private. He says, I understand many people don't think Facebook can or would even want to build this kind of privacy-focused platform because, frankly, we don't have a strong reputation for that. And we've focused on tools for more open sharing. But I believe the future of communication will increasingly shift to private, encrypted. Whoa, when I saw that, I went, what? Services. And when he says encrypted, he says, I want to do end-to-end encryption. We won't even be able to read your transactions. So here's the principles. Private interactions. People should have simple, intimate places where they have clear control over who can communicate with them. I read that to be advertisers. And confidence that no one else can access what they share, even Facebook. People's communication should be encrypted. End-to-end prevents anyone, including us, from seeing what people share on our services. Here's another one. This comes straight from the Snapchat playbook. Reducing permanence. One of the problems with Facebook and the web in general is everything posted there lives forever. You just said it yourself, Mike. People should be comfortable being themselves and should not have to worry about what they share coming back to hurt them later. In fact, many psychologists and others, social scientists have observed that what's really important, especially for young people, is the ability to try personas and then leave them behind. And that's why young people love Snapchat. They can try stuff on, but it doesn't haunt them for the rest of their life. So he says, we won't keep messages or stories around for longer than necessary to deliver the service or longer than people want them. That's Snapchat, right? Yep. Safety. People should expect we'll do everything we can to keep them safe on our limits. and this is really interesting, within the limits of what's possible in an encrypted service, he's tacitly acknowledging that if we can't see the messages that are being sent, people could bully you. But presumably they're going to give you strong controls that allow you to say, I don't want to hear from that person ever again. Interoperability. This is a controversial one, and it's not clear what he means. People should be able to use any of our apps.
Right.
So that means Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp to reach their friends. But then this is the sentence that I'm not sure what he means. They should be able to communicate across networks. Does that mean just within the Facebook network?
Yes.
He actually had an announcement about this.
He's mentioning text messages as well, which could open the door to other things.
Okay.
Obviously, he's not specifically naming other companies, but the fact that he's saying it could be used via SMS as well, could arguably.
And then finally, and this was another one that was a big deal, I thought, secure data storage. People should expect we won't store sensitive data in countries with weak records on human rights. Now, we already know Facebook doesn't operate in China. China won't let it.
Right.
But it does, it's a little shot across Tim Cook's bow saying, we're not going to, Apple stores your data in China with the keys.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. It means there's no way they could operate in China. Now, I love this, and I obviously this is a turning your back on a significant amount of revenue, the ad revenue that Facebook gets. I think there are opportunities. Here's what I interpret this, and I'm not alone in this. It seems to me Facebook's looking at WeChat in China, Line in Japan. Those are messaging platforms that have turned into really platforms for almost every kind of interaction, including financial transactions, purchasing of plane tickets, socializing. And the idea that I could control who could talk to me, this is like Google+. This is what I like in the Google+. Who could talk to me, who I would hear from. If a brand wanted to talk to me, they wouldn't get to unless I give them permission, permission which could be revoked at any time. I love this notion. I think this is exactly what people want for a social network. And what they thought Facebook was. I will decide who gets to see my posts. And it's going to be my family and friends. It's not going to be advertisers. It's not going to be Russia. I think this is what people thought they were getting with Facebook. I think this, here was my initial theory. Talk me up onto the ledge again. I thought Mark was seeing the horror of what he'd created, maybe just because of the personal risk that he's facing from regulation, breakup, maybe going to jail, I don't know, and saying, all right, you don't like it, I got a new idea. And an idea I think Facebook is looking at Line and WeChat and saying, you know, they're doing pretty well. In fact, one of the reasons Facebook never had a chance in China is because of WeChat. I think, honestly, that this is, if I were Mark Zuckerberg, I would like this plan. All right, I'm done.
I'm with you, actually, Leo. I'm actually with you. I think this is momentous. Now, if we take it as at face value, I think it's very easy to go, oh, of course, he has never, been truthful or trustworthy with any of his declarations before. So why would we trust him now? Sure, I don't think we should trust him just on this, but I think it has value. I don't think he can say all of these things and then do nothing. And the list, as you remarked, is essentially the dream of any anti-Facebook person. This is the perfect social network he's describing.
Except for law enforcement. They're going to hate this.
Well, except for data collection and tracking.
And Foursquare.
Except for people who...
all of his customers are going to hate it, but his users are going to love it.
He even says we will work with law enforcement to do whatever we can do to help them do their job. So
yeah, but honestly,
kind of everyone.
If I were Facebook, and I know Apple wants to do this, I would just make it encrypted and say, hey, I'm sorry, but we can't.
Yeah, but there's metadata, there's patterns.
Yeah, then how are you supposed to moderate things?
You can't. He said it. You can't.
I know. I mean, then we're going to have the same issue that we have with WhatsApp in the sense that
you moderate
it can spread rapidly.
Yeah, you decide.
And then when something happens exactly in the same case as WhatsApp in India, in regards to Myanmar and fake news bringing about death on such a massive scale. What are we supposed to do then? Just allow it to spread?
Well, Myanmar's a little different.
Anyway.
Myanmar they were able to use the very public platform of Facebook to say, wipe out the Rohingya.
Okay, well, let's talk about...
But WhatsApp is a good example, because that WhatsApp is an encrypted...
And that is part of Facebook.
One-to-one messaging with group messaging. It was used to cause people's deaths, mass rapes. It was a very, very bad thing.
Child pornography is big on
using
WhatsApp.
fake news. And you're right, that's a huge problem.
They have limited the sizes of groups and things like that, which doesn't solve everything. But it's not like bad things don't happen
easier to
on
solve.
Facebook, right?
That's easier to solve than the Myanmar issue and the Cambridge Analytica issue, which are much more intractable issues. If you continue to run a public network, that's really what do you do about anti-vaxxers? It becomes really, really difficult.
But I think this is akin to what Zuckerberg saw when he saw things moving in the mobile world, and he decided Facebook is going to be a mobile-first company, and we're going to all focus on this. And he managed in 2 years to make Facebook primarily a mobile company. I don't know that he's right, that everything has to go private. I think that is something a lot of people do want. And I think he has the power and determination to make make it happen.
He didn't say everything would go private.
Well, that's a question I have.
Privacy first.
Is some have said, oh, he's going to still have public Facebook. He's just going to do this with WhatsApp or just do this with Messenger.
He's going to connect all the messaging platforms and Facebook together so that you can do end-to-end encryption to and from and within all of them. And he's going to say that's this big privacy thing.
That there's still a big public Facebook.
Right, of course. And people are going to want to do whatever they want to do.
That's not how I read it. I really read that he...
No, me neither.
That
he clarifies this in his interview he did with Nick later that day on last Wednesday or whatever it was. He, I believe, says here, I'm looking at it, it says the thinking is that there needs to be two types of platforms in the world. One is a more public platform, like the digital equivalent of the town square, and then the other platform is a private space.
Living room.
The digital equivalent of a living room. Yeah. And then you're going to have the Facebook and Instagrams and the WhatsApp and Messengers, but they're both there, but they're both kind of separate and working for different groups and for different reasons.
Leo, can I burn his whole post down?
Yeah, burn it to the ground.
And I want you all to join me on this ledge, and we'll jump together holding hands. Like
okay, good. I like it.
Okay, so the way I look at this is he's trying to get credit for everything he's resisted. They wouldn't let him into China because China wants to control the Chinese public through WeChat. WeChat is the Mark Zuckerberg wet dream. You can't scratch your butt in China without WeChat. Yeah. You can't ride a train. You can't get a coffee. You can't split a bill. You can't
Big opportunity.
Anything. And he's like, that's what I want.
Build a platform.
He wants to make Facebook 10 times more invasive and 10 times more of a monopoly in the whole non-Chinese world than it is today. That's what he wants.
Make WeChat. That's what Molly Wood said in Wired.
He wants you using Facebook coin to buy everything through WeChat. He wants everything to happen through WeChat. He wants to know exactly where everyone is at all times, far more information than Foursquare has. He's going to know what you buy, who you buy it for, who you meet with, when you meet.
So there's plenty of opportunity to make money.
He wants to make 10 times more money by being 10 times more of a monopoly. And the way to get there is to say we're going to be WeChat but with encryption.
Right.
We're going to be the justifiably morally superior version of WeChat because we're going to have encryption, unlike WeChat, which is an entirely different thing altogether. What this blog post represents to me is he's basically announced that we got a few more things that we're going to copy, the remaining 2 things from Snapchat that we didn't copy previously, and then we're going to start copying WeChat. We're going to copy everything they do. And by the way, there's 3 stories a day recently about all the transgressions Facebook has committed.
That's right.
Against everybody. They're harvesting data about women's menstrual cycles. They're harvesting data about people's heart rates. They're taking they're requiring you to use a phone for 2-factor authentication, and they're selling your phone number to advertisers. All these stories are coming like this, and he's like, we got to distract everybody from this and give them some BS. And so he did this post, and he said, we're going to change all these things that aren't really the problem. He didn't mention tracking. He didn't mention shadow profiles. He didn't mention harvesting data. He didn't mention any of the things that are truly controversial. He came up with these other things that are less controversial. Encrypted communication. He's basically saying you're going to be able to send email from CompuServe to Prodigy. Oh my God, like nobody has ever thought of it before, and it's going to be encrypted. Who cares? Right. He doesn't care.
It's not who cares, Mike. You're being disingenuous. It's still a big shift for a company like Facebook. It's an
inevitable shift. He has to offer encrypted communication. And what he wants to do is take all these.
He's making a virtue out of a necessity.
He's got 2 million people on Facebook. He's got a 1-point-something billion on this and that platform and another platform. He wants to take all 4 of them and combine them into one super network that's all connected. In China, there are a huge number of Chinese people who never use the actual internet. WeChat is everything online.
That's Facebook's dream all along, by the way, with the internet.org.
He's trying to just convince everybody that it's a virtue for him to control all the users in a closed garden. It's a virtue that he is not allowed to in China, and I think he's going to get kicked out of Russia too.
And I think he would be happy.
I think he wants all the money. I think he wants the rubles, and he would love to be in China. He tried really hard. He learned Mandarin, for God's sake, and then
speaks it pretty well too.
Yeah, and it didn't work, and so now he's trying to get credit for saying, "Oh, we're not going to work with those Chinese, the totalitarian countries anymore." It's a distraction, and designed to make you feel comfortable about him becoming WeChat and really controlling everything.